Today is January 26th, 2022. 2022 is kind of a special year. It marks the 40th anniversary of the compact disc, and also actually the 30th anniversary of the Minidisc. This little format that most people don't actually know about. This one, the compact disc, the older format, a lot of people have a lot of experience with this, myself included. This came out in the fall of 1982, although, like a lot of formats, didn't get more affordable until a little bit later on. And of course, it takes time for markets to saturate and albums to build up on new formats and so on. And by the late 80s, early 90s, people started to buy more CD players and started to collect CDs. Myself included, actually. I got my first CD player in 1991, a Sony Discman. And although this is a Sony Walkman and a newer version, they went back to the Walkman branding for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but it's the branding they originally used with their cassette players back in the, I think it was 1980, somewhere around there. But when I bought one originally, or when I got one originally, it was in 1991, late 91, Christmas. It was a Christmas gift, actually. And I was 12 years old. And these were my first 3 albums right here. Genesis, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and Boyz II Men. Kind of an eclectic combination of music there. But I remember when I first put this album on, in particular the Genesis album, and I listened to this on a Discman for the first time with my headphones on. And they weren't even very good headphones. They were just the headphones that came with the Sony Discman. But to my 12-year-old ears, it was a sonic experience that I had never heard before. And I had heard CDs. I'm sure I probably had. I probably heard them in stores and stuff, but there was probably a lot of ambient sound around when I did hear them. And I liked them enough, and I thought they were cool enough that I wanted one, and I knew that they were sort of the new thing and the up-and-coming thing, and I recognized all the benefits of them, the ability to skip forward and backwards, and the digital quality and all that. But I hadn't really heard one until I was in my bedroom that night, Christmas Eve or whenever it was, and I put that album on, and I listened to it with my headphones, and suddenly I was just blown away. I had never heard anything so clear and precise before. The sound quality was amazing. There's that tick-tocking sound at the beginning of this album, and it was like, wow, like it blew me away. And I know that that's probably difficult for people to understand, especially younger people who grew up with digital audio around them their entire lives, especially people like my son who, was born in the early aughts, and he's always had digital audio around. But for people like me who had grown up listening to music on cassette tape or, FM radio, AM, FM radio, or even vinyl records, or even just hearing music through like VHS tapes and stuff. There was nothing like it before. There had always been some background noise or hiss or whatever, and suddenly you're just hearing dead silence and then tones. And it just, I hadn't had any experience like it before, and so it really impressed me when I heard it. And I'll never forget that. And I've collected CDs ever since. These are still my original 3 CDs, and they still work 30 plus years later, which goes into longevity of pressed CDs, actual factory pressed CDs that can last, they say, 50 to 70 years or something like that. I don't really know. But because the actual bits are pressed into the polycarbonate plastic itself, rather than just burned into a die layer, in like they are with a CDR or a CDRW, and those don't last as long typically, that I'm aware of. The actual press discs should last a lot longer than that, and so far so good, at least with my collection, which is 30 plus years old at this point. And so that's awesome, and especially when it's a format that you want to collect over your life. You've got 200 plus, 300 plus, however many you've got. I don't have a ton of CDs. I've got a couple of hundred or so, maybe 300 at this point in time. But I've held on to them over the years, and I've recently, within the last year, put up a new bookshelf where I've been able to display them again. They've pretty much been in a box in my attic or in my basement or whatever over all these years, because in the early aughts I ripped them to my computer as MP3s and then have been listening to the music mostly that way. Even though I've continued to buy CDs over the years, and it's always been that process. Buy the CD, rip it, put the CD, in a box or something in the attic or wherever. I just didn't have the room to display them, and I didn't care enough, and it had been since the 90s that I think I was really using the discs themselves. But I got a bit nostalgic for CDs again, and so I bought a used Discman, since it's been a while since I've had a Discman, even though I've had a number of them over the years. And I bought a shelf, and I started putting my CDs on the shelf, and I started going to thrift stores and buying more CDs over the last couple of years, and just kind of gotten more into CDs again as a physical format, and not just as a format to deliver music to me that I can then put on my computer. That said, I also started a new collection of ALAC, Apple Lossless, on my desktop computer. My laptop's always been where my MP3 collection is. I decided to start a whole new library of just lossless audio from my CDs on my desktop. So that's also kind of a new thing for me. Even though, honestly, I can't really hear the difference. That's my 40-year-old ears plus 40-some-year-old ears plus just the fact that I don't think I've ever really been able to tell the difference. I've never been that much of an audiophile or anything. So even so, I like the idea of having, a lossless collection. There's just something about that psychologically that's kind of nice. Just for me. And maybe I'm just a weirdo like that, but that's okay. Still, like I said, I've collected CDs over the years because it's a nice format to own, because then you own sort of the best quality, and you can rip the audio to whatever format you want from there, and then you can put it on a shelf, and if it's an actual press disc, it should last for decades and decades. On a shelf is a nice archival format you can fall back on. Plus there's all the artwork and everything, packaging. All of that's nice to have if you're somebody who cares about that, which I do. And so for that reason, I really appreciate the CD, and it's always been a utility format for me. And that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't sort of done a video like this sooner, or really, appreciated it up front more, because it's been a utility format that I've continued to use over the years. I've never really stopped using it. Even though I've bought store-bought CDs, ripped them to my computer and made MP3s and listened to that, I've still continued to make discs as well, CDRs and stuff, because I've always had a CD player in my car, and it's the easiest way for me to get music into my car is through my CD player in my car and through a CDR. So I've continued to make and burn discs, and I haven't stopped. So it's always been a utility format for me, even when I actually stopped using the actual pressed discs that come from the factory in my daily life. So for that reason, I have to sort of remind myself, hey, this format's cool. This format's great. It's not just a utility format. It hasn't just been a useful thing for you. It's actually a very cool format, and you really should appreciate it more and recognize it more, because we can sometimes forget that, especially with things we use every day. And like the mini disc is a perfect example of that. I'm not going to get too much into this because I'm actually going to make another video about the mini disc, since it's the 30th anniversary of that as well. But the mini disc is a perfect example because I bought my first mini disc player in 1999, and then I used it for a handful of years or so, and then I sort of moved on to an iPod and kind of forgot about the mini disc. It went on a shelf or in a box or whatever, and along with my rest of my collection of mixed discs that I made back then. And I bought it originally so that I could make mixed discs before my I had any CD players that could play CDRs, because it used to be you couldn't play CDRs and CDRWs in most portable CD players back in the day, or any CD players back in the day, just because they didn't have the sensors or whatever that were strong enough or whatever to be able to read those discs. They have like less reflectivity than store-bought pressed discs. So I bought the mini disc to sort of make mixed discs that I could take with me on the road. And then, of course, when the iPod came around, I didn't even need to go that far. I could just take the MP3s directly off my computer onto the iPod and go to town. But about a decade or so after putting the iPod or the Minidisc player away in a box somewhere, I pulled it back out and I began to have nostalgic feelings for the late 90s and early aughts, and sort of got into it more. And it was because of that time away, that decade or so, that nostalgia and that appreciation were able to come back, and I was able to recognize it more clearly. Whereas with the CD, because I continued to use it over the years, I never took the time to really appreciate it up front the way that I should have. And so now, over the last year or so, I've started to do that more. And hence this video, Ode to the CD. It's me recognizing the compact disc, and it's a great time to do it since it's the 40th anniversary. So it's me recognizing the compact disc as such an awesome format, and a format that's really been a fundamental tool in my life for 3/4 of my life. Just how great a format it really is, and how I continue to use it even today. I mean, even when the more advanced things break, like my lightning connection on my iPhone or the aux jack on my car stereo, my CD player in the car is still working. And it plays MP3s too, which is nice, off the CDs. So I've got an option. I got some choices. I can go with the regular CD media, or I can go with a disc full of MP3s. But the point is, the physical format itself still works. I still rely on it to play music in my car, since my only real choice is either that or the radio, and I mostly lean on the CDs until getting a new iPhone or whatever. So yeah, it's a great format. I continue to use it. I continue to appreciate it, or more, I appreciate it more now than I've ever appreciated it before. And I guess there's not much else to say other than right now continues to be a good time to buy CDs as a format, because it's probably the cheapest way to get music, to collect music, if you're not picky about the selection, that is. Like, I walk into thrift stores all the time, and at 50 cents a disc, I'm picking up, 5 or 6 albums or 10 albums or whatever, for like $5. And I mean, that's when you consider that you can go on iTunes and spend 79 cents to $1.29 per song in a lossy format, versus buying a full album on CD with like 10 tracks or whatever for like 50 cents. That's like 5 cents a song. And that's, lossless. And then you've still got the disc itself that you can put on a shelf and archive as well. That's awesome. I mean, that's really a bargain. Again, so long as you're not picky about the selection, because it's not like you can walk in and buy like the newest album from your favorite artist or something. It's mostly like stuff people have dumped over the years, and there can be a lot of crap out there, but I found some pretty good albums as well. So if you look around a little bit, you can build up quite a nice little collection on CD that way. And unlike vinyl, it's really easy to rip to a digital format. Vinyl, a lot of new turntables, they come with USB connections and stuff, and so it makes it like easy to sort of record, but that still has to be done in real time. You still got to play it back in real time. You still got to open an app like Audacity or something and record it. Like, it's way more complicated than just ripping a CD. So it's still, CDs continue to sort of still be the cheapest and easiest way to get new digital music, without, and probably the highest quality way to get it, unless you're, doing a download of a high-res file or something, but that doesn't matter to me. And I'm going off on a tangent here, so let's forget about all that. It's a good format. I continue to collect it, and I continue to appreciate it, and I think I'm appreciating it more now. So yeah, as a format, CD is just still such a great format, and I'll just continue to keep using it. I mean, why not? It's there, it works great, and it's pretty versatile, so why not collect CDs?